Harp, who is speaking this morning on the topic naturally divine. Reverend Cindy. Mhm.
Welcome to the virtual community, our Facebook friends, our Zoom family, and everyone here in this room. We're so happy to have you with us this morning, wherever you're watching from or whenever you choose to join us virtually. This year, as many of you know, our overall theme has been Living Everyday Wonder. And this morning, we are concluding our August talk theme of nature. Each week, Reverend Robert has explored a different aspect of nature and our relationship with it. First the earth, then water, then all the living creatures that share this beautiful planet with us. So this week, our exploration takes us to human nature. And our topic is naturally divine. I could have done 4 talks on this, but I didn't. You'll be happy to know. The science of mind point of view is that there is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of divine being. Thus, we are also divine. This is an inherent quality in all of us, but it is not always acknowledged, consciously realized, felt, and therefore we don't experience the demonstrations, the things we want in our life. Well, why? How can we be divine and not know that? We humans are complicated creatures, intelligent, social, creative, capable, compassionate, and also unconscious, destructive, biased, selfish, cruel, and many other things. Do our genetics determine our destiny, or do we have a choice in how we turn out? What is human nature anyway? Is there such a thing? Well, let's look at this question from a few different viewpoints. Let's look at it first from the aspect of behavior. Behavior refers to the way that a person acts or reacts to other persons, situations, and surroundings in general. Behavior is how a person expresses themselves. Generally, organisms with more complex nervous systems have a greater capacity to learn new responses and thus adjust their behavior to suit their environment. Humans have very complex nervous systems and therefore should have a greater capacity to learn new things and to respond differently. But being the religious scientists that we are, we love definitions, don't we? Behavior is the computed response of the system or organism, that's us, to various stimuli or inputs, whether internal or external, conscious or subconscious, overt or covert, and voluntary or involuntary. In other words, we behave differently based on different criteria. If something is potentially harmful, the first priority is to protect ourselves. But if we believe we're safe, then we're open to exploring new things, forming new relationships, learning new responses to our environment. Seldom do 2 people respond to the same stimulus in the same way. For example, let's say a person is walking down the street and a stranger approaches. Well, one person may respond with open friendliness, while another person might respond with hostility or anger, or even fear, based on that person's perception of the stranger as being a danger or not. That perception may be based on prior experience or possibly training. Remember teaching children about stranger danger? But when we grow to adulthood, we acquire more ability to assess various criteria to determine that all strangers are not a danger. So we adjust our behavior based on our perception of risk or reward. Now, part of our life experience is developing filters in our perception. Filters are basically shortcuts to making decisions about others or our environment. For example, when we are loading our car for a road trip, my husband, Lynn, always puts the hanging clothes on the passenger side of the back seat. If I'm loading the car, I put the hanging clothes on the driver's side of the back seat. Why? Lynn feels more comfortable being able to look in the rearview mirror to see any tailgaters that might be causing a danger. I'm more concerned with being able to see the danger in the blind spot on the right rear side of the car instead of depending on just the side mirror. So each have our own filter that influences our behavior. And being the complex creatures that we are, either or both of us could modify our behavior if we see the logic in it. For example, we could both decide to put the hangers in the middle or lay them on the seat, and then both safety factors would be addressed. Let's move on to consider the nature of humans from the perspective of biology and genetics. This is a field that I find fascinating, and there's a wonderful 2019 movie on Netflix called Human Nature that explores DNA and CRISPR technology. So if you have any interest in that, you might want to look that up. I found it fascinating. DNA is the blueprint in our cells that contains the instructions for the creation of our entire physical body and tells each cell and system how to function. Now, the human genome consists of, I'm going to give you some facts, consists of 6.4 billion letters, or 3.2 billion what they call base pairs, which is pairs of letters. That's a lot of information, most of which we have no idea how to interpret. Now, different members of the same species have almost identical DNA. For instance, the DNA in your genes is about 99.9% the same as the DNA of every other human being. These common genetic structures mean that members of the same species are born with a variety of behaviors that come naturally to them, defining the characteristics of the species. These abilities and characteristics are sometimes known as instincts, which are defined as, because we love definitions, defined as complex inborn patterns of behavior that help ensure survival and reproduction. For example, as humans, we tend to be social creatures, needing the company and affection of others to thrive. Different animals have different instincts. For example, birds build nests, dogs are naturally loyal, humans instinctively learn to communicate and understand language. But the strength of the different traits and behaviors varies within species. For example, rabbits are naturally fearful, but some rabbits are more fearful than others. Some dogs are more loyal than others. Some humans learn to speak and write better than others. These variances are determined in part by the small differences in genes, that 1/10 of 1% that is different among humans. So though we share 99.9% of our genetics with the rest of the species, we see vast differences among people with respect to sex, ethnicity, appearance, resistance to certain diseases, abilities, behavioral tendencies, and so forth. Let's consider the effect of genes on a third aspect of human nature, personality. Personality refers to a collection of qualities and characteristics, including behaviors that define a person. Scientists believe that personality is not determined by any single gene, but is assumed to be determined by the actions of many genes working together. For example, there's no IQ gene that we know of that determines intelligence. And there is no good marriage partner gene that makes a person a particularly good spouse. Even working together, genes are not so powerful that they can control or create our personality. Some genes increase certain characteristics while others work to decrease the same characteristics. The complex relationship among these various genes, as well as your environmental factors, produces the final outcome that creates personality. Just because one possesses a given pattern of genes doesn't necessarily mean that a particular trait will develop. For example, we see children of artists or musicians or athletes that don't demonstrate any interest in following after their parents. And likewise, a pair of individuals with no particular talent for music or science can give birth to a child who from early years demonstrates an aptitude and passion for music or science. So our behaviors and our biological genetic makeup contribute to our personality, but do not define it. Okay, so what accounts for all the vast differences in how each of us responds to the world? Why is one person timid and afraid, while another marches through life achieving fame and fortune? What accounts for cruelty in one person and compassion in another? Why does one person choose to wear red or pink, and another person wants green or blue? Let's look at the science of mind point of view of human nature again. There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. And of course, it's from Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes. This is my version of universal law. Spirit or mind conceives a blueprint or thought about some idea, individual, or condition. And this thought or blueprint has a vibration that attracts to it exactly those elements that bring that thought into form as a perfect reflection or manifestation of the thought. So if mind changes the blueprint, the vibration changes and releases anything unlike itself, attracting a new form. Everything is energy. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. There's nothing but energy from which everything is made. How? By thought projecting patterns into that energy. This is how all of creation came into being, how each of us came into being. We are quite literally made of stardust. The particles and gases and debris of the stars and planets of the universe that have accumulated over millennia onto this beautiful home that we call Earth. I watch a lot of how the universe works, so I know that's true. The blueprint for human beings attracted the required intelligent energy in the form of stardust and created mankind. Now, as religious scientists, we believe that the individual personality is determined by what we believe about ourselves. How do we know what we believe about ourselves? Look at the evidence. If like attracts like, meaning two entities vibrating at the same frequencies are pulled toward each other, we can know what we believe about ourselves based on who or what we attract into our experience. Do you attract relationships with people who are loving and supportive? Or do you find yourself repeatedly attracting those to you who abuse your trust or try to undermine your confidence? Do you consider yourself well compensated for your labors, or do you find yourself constantly in a state of lack? You might want to look at how you feel about yourself. So when we look at the place of the human in relation to all of the aspects of nature that we've studied this month, what is our place? We live within this universal law, and because we're self-aware beings, we have volition or the ability to think what we will. We're not limited by our nature, our genes, or our personalities. This means that we can use the law as we grow in understanding and cooperation with it. Science of Mind teaches that God created mankind and then left us alone to discover ourselves so that mankind could be free, not to be mean, not to leave us in our ignorance, but so that we could be free. Ernest Holmes again, life waits upon man's discovery of natural laws, his discovery of himself, and his discovery of his relationship to the great whole. I think our discovery of the law is necessary so that we understand how the universe works. Our discovery of ourselves, I am, and our relationship to the great whole or God is necessary so that we grow in consciousness that there is something greater and that it has something to do with us. It has everything to do with us. In Genesis, the first of 3 versions or chapters of Genesis, it is said that the Creator God created mankind in its own image, means sharing the same nature, and that God then gave mankind dominion over all the earth and all the things living upon the earth. Now, that word dominion implies governance, organization, not domination, but the right of ruling over the earth and other living creatures. We're not the biggest, the strongest, the fastest creature on earth, so we were given other talents like big, complex brains, self-awareness, and volition. We rule by right of consciousness. So we have a very special role to play in the evolution of this planet. We get to decide whether a particular species of animals, plants, and indeed even races of people will thrive or survive at all. The Dalai Lama says, love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. I believe that without love and compassion, our world cannot survive. We have the power to change the world we live in. We can heal ourselves of physical dis-ease, financial distress, any kind of lack and limitation that we've believed in up until now. How? By believing that it is possible, by believing that the unlimited intelligence that creates us, by declaring its divine will into form, shares its nature with us and gives us that same ability to cast a vision that attracts everything like itself and nothing that is unlike it. We create cultures, governments, institutions, organizations, charities, armies, and we can change them. What stands in our way? We just have to come to agreement about the kind of world we choose to live in. Not so easy, because you know how unique we all are. That's the answer. On a world level, all of mankind, what is ours to do? Ours is to grow in understanding, in spiritual discernment, and the ability to influence our world. Now, not everyone will grow at the same rate. I think the one with a trained mind, the clearest vision, the strongest passion, and the highest good for all in mind will influence human consciousness more strongly and enduringly than one who simply wanders through life accepting the law of averages as their experience and feeling helpless to change anything. On an individual level, we can attract to ourselves everything required to live lives of purpose, abundance, love, and joy. As we study and practice our spiritual nature, as we wait upon spirit in meditation and prayer, we evolve. So to summarize, all of these things, behavior, genetics, personality, go into human nature, but there's something even more, the ability to consciously shape life on this plane and beyond. I found a beautiful quote on the BBC website, BBC Earth, which I think kind of summarizes the way we all feel. To be human is to be at the center of our own universe, to experience life in all its colors and all its potential. Let's evolve together. Let's start with our one-sentence affirmation for today. And I've asked the beautiful tech team, wow, they are so terrific, to place today's affirmation and practical application into the Zoom chat and the Facebook notes for your reference. So let us first say our one-sentence affirmation. I am of the divine being. My true nature is divine. Say with me. I am of the divine being. My true nature is divine. And that's yours for the week or as long as you care to claim it. Our personal practical application for the week says that affirmations are powerful. Think of something you'd like to manifest in your life, a new job or a home, a healthy body, a loving relationship, etc. And write down 3 to 5 affirmations as if you are already having the experience. You know why that's important? because otherwise you're always putting it out there in the future. You got to bring it in now. I have this now, as if you're already having the experience. Have the affirmations handy so you can start your day with them, read them throughout the day, and make your declaration at the end of your day before you go to bed. Notice what happens in your experience after a few days, weeks, or months of this practice. There is an extra credit exercise, and since I've been so speedy, I'll share it with you. Every month, Science of Mind magazine prints a copy of our Declaration of Principles, or what we believe. You are invited to read the Declaration of Principles aloud, listening to each sentence and noticing what resonates as true. What do you believe to be true? Read it daily and notice how your body responds when you read the statements. If you encounter a situation where you feel sad or hurt, down, angry, disconnected, read the statements aloud. Pay attention to any energetic changes in your body or feelings. You'll begin to learn more about your own instincts and what is true for you. Okay. It's time for our prayer. Please join me now in knowing and affirming that there is one source, one presence, one unlimited intelligence that creates all that is, and that we are one in it. Right now, I know and declare that each and every one of us has within us the seeds of our own joy, our own abundance, our own relationships, our true home, plenty of financial abundance. And we claim it right now for anyone who seems to feel that there is a lack. There is no lack. There is no limitation in God. It is ours to claim. Come not with a teacup, but with a huge bucket or barrel to claim your good, and see if God does not fill that receptacle for you. We're so grateful for this time together, for knowing the truth of who and what we are, for sharing with each other the best of what we are, and for the opportunity to grow in spiritual discernment, in life, in love, in all the good things that we love and want to claim. We're grateful for this. And we know as we place this word into that divine law, it attracts everything needed to produce the desired effect. Because that's the way it was set up in the beginning. And it always is perfect, whether it looks like it or not at the time. In the rearview mirror, there's always good. Always good. And if this resonates with you and you choose to make it your own word, please join me now in saying, and so it is. Okay. And now I would remind anyone who thinks that they would like to have a prayer practitioner, would like to have help with something that they can't visualize for themselves, to contact a prayer practitioner. We have several of them, and we very much love to serve. So our information is posted in the newsletter and in our website, which is montereycsl.org. And that will tell you how you can contact a practitioner. Now, we have that time, which frankly, I think is underrated. We're going to share in our abundance. The affirmation of abundance is before us. Please say it with me. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And on your screen or in your Zoom screen, you will see 3 different ways you can give. It's like 27 ways to leave your lover. Well, we have 3 ways. You can give to us by mail at the address on your screen. You may text the word give to that number. And you may give online at montereycsl.org/donate, or click the donate button in the weekly newsletter. I think this is underrated because we are not asking for money. We don't need money. We have abundance. This is important because it gives each of us the opportunity to grow our abundance consciousness and enter into the flow of giving and receiving, knowing that we can't outgive God. So let's give generously and see what shows up in our lives. And now, I'd like to thank our virtual viewers. And I would like to invite everyone to share the videos or to watch on YouTube. And we welcome you all back next week when our September theme will be work. And the message presented by Denise Kaku, our wonderful religious science practitioner, will be good work. And now we have just a few announcements.